That's true.
That's true.
All right, everyone. I'm going to call to order the council work session for May 4th, 2026, and I will turn it over to Miles Braswell to go through the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Tonight for consent, you have 9 items. The first item is the meeting minutes from April 6, 2026. Item B2 is the workshop meeting minutes from April 20th, 2026. Let me go back. For the April 6 meeting minutes, Councilman Heffron sent in some revised notes, so I think that's been passed out to you all. And also, Councilman Heffron sent in edits to the April 20th meeting minutes as well. Item B3 on the agenda is the approval of special meeting minutes from April 6, 2026. Item B4 is the acceptance of the Gary Sinise Foundation grant for the fire department. They received the grant, which will allow for the purchase of a drone. They applied for this grant, and you all gave approval on March 2nd. This is a non-matching grant, and the amount was $9,865.02. Item B5 is the acceptance of the Enbridge Gas North Carolina's Fueling Futures grant for 2 gas meters. This is also a fire department grant for their multi-gas meters. They're going to replace their 2 aging multi-gas meters. There's no local match. The cost is $2,747.76. Item B6 is the approval of the engagement letters and contract to audit accounts with Martin Starnes and Associates. This is from the Finance Department. The audit contract for fiscal year 27 is a not to exceed of $97,500. Our Finance Department issued a request for proposals for audit services. We received 1 submission from Martin Starnes. They're our current audit firm. And so staff did evaluate the submission to ensure that it met all the city's needs. And so they are recommending approval of Martin Starnes for auditing purposes. Item B7 is the Wreaths Across America for Greenwood Cemetery. This is when a citizen, Bridget Somerville, attended the March 2nd City Council meeting and asked the city to participate in Wreaths Across America at Greenwood Cemetery. Staff reached out to Ms. Somerville to get more information. There'll be no expense to the city. We think it's a good idea, and so the only thing that we would do is petition Wreaths Across America to be listed on their site as a participating cemetery. And then once the wreaths are delivered to the cemetery and placed on each grave by the volunteers, our staff will go around and remove the wreath boxes after that occurs. Item B8 is to consider approval to maintain criminal enforcement of city ordinances. And I'll read the summary of action. It says Part 8 of Session Law 2021-138, which is Senate Bill 300. It revises North Carolina General Statute 160A-175 to remove criminal penalties for certain ordinances and violations unless a municipality expressly states within each section that violations are enforceable as misdemeanors. So previously, violations of the city ordinance were automatically treated as misdemeanors. So effective December 1st, 2021, municipalities must adopt ordinances through 2 readings, specifically identifying which sections will continue to carry criminal enforcement. The first reading will take place during tonight's meeting, and the second reading will take place on May 18th. This ordinance pertains to Chapter 72 for stop, standing, and parking. And included inside the agenda packet was the actual ordinance and the ordinance to amend the ordinance. Councilman Heffron made a few notes and sent those in, corrections. I believe our clerk made those corrections. We sent that out to you all. And so that's item B8. Item B9 is a budget amendment number 19 to transfer to general fund capital reserve. The amount that's going to be transferred is $220,329. And this is per the city's capital improvement policy that at the end of the fiscal year, if there's available fund balance, that we would transfer 5% over to our capital reserve. And so this year we added $4,406,580 to available fund balance. Therefore, this budget amendment is 5% of that, equaling that to the capital reserve fund. Those are the items for consent. Mayor, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Miles. Appreciate that. Are there any questions or concerns about any of the items on the consent agenda?
I did have some questions about the revisions to the Chapter 72 of the ordinances, and I had thought about whether to, see if we could pull this and put it on the regular agenda, but I think if someone is available to answer some questions, we can avoid doing that.
I saw Chief Falls, and I think Captain Black's here as well, so. And great. Y'all come on up here if you don't mind. I know everyone gets tired of me saying it, but don't be afraid to get too close to that microphone. It doesn't pick up great, and everybody likes to hear you.
Hello. Good evening. Just so I'm clear and I understand what's going on here, based on the revisions to the state statute, but the majority of these provisions that you're recommending be revised, the ones that were already on the books, they were punishable as misdemeanors prior to the change in state law in 2021. Is that correct? Okay. And some of these revisions are recriminalizations of existing ordinances, but some of them are new provisions entirely. Does that make any difference in terms of being able to criminalize them if we so designate? Okay. And I'm assuming that the purpose of this exercise is to give the police like another tool in their enforcement arsenal, that officers would have discretion as to how to enforce these ordinances, so that, like, say, parking outside the lines is not automatically going to be a misdemeanor every time it's, okay.
Yeah, that's correct. It's to give us a little more enforcement.
Yes.
If you use it as a last resort.
Yes, but I can certainly, judging by some of them, I can understand why you might want to do that when perhaps there might be repeated instances where it proves to not disincentivize the behavior, say perhaps near a butcher shop or something. Yes. The only other question I had, one of the new sections was 7237, leaving vehicle unattended. And that did not contain a subsection indicating that violation of the provision is punishable as a misdemeanor. I just wanted to make sure that that was your intention.
Correct.
Okay.
It was intended to be that.
Okay, so that's just a new provision. Okay.
To decrease the chance of crimes of opportunity.
Yes, I understand. Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And I'm good. We can
Great,
leave it on
okay.
consent.
If there's no further questions or comments, that will conclude our work session. And I will call to order the Belmont City Council regular meeting of May 4th. Just as we start off, everyone may notice here that we're a little thin, but I did want to verify that we do have quorum. Councilman Hill will be joining us in about an hour, and Councilman Rumpelt is out of country, I believe. So if Parks, you agree that we're, excellent. So we're good to move forward, so we will continue moving on with our meeting. And that brings us to our invocation. So our invocation will be given by Mark Forbes, pastor of Living Hope Church. Everyone please stand, the invocation.
I don't know that I've ever been introduced by, we're looking a little thin. Praise the Lord. A moment of personal privilege, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just say thank you for the opportunity to open this meeting up in prayer to our Lord this
Absolutely.
afternoon. Let's pray together. Gracious God and Heavenly Father, I come before you this evening in the matchless name, the name above all names, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I thank you and I praise you that you've ordained this moment from eternity past, bring this body together to do the work of governing this small part of your kingdom in such a time as this. I thank you for each and every one of these elected officials in whom you placed in power and authority to govern our beautiful city of Belmont, North Carolina, and it's my prayer that each one would do so in accordance to your will. I pray you would give them wisdom in making wise decisions for the stewardship of the resources that you've granted them to work with, that you would lead them to promote unity and righteousness and justice amongst all that live here in this city, that we, the people of this beautiful community, would benefit through the works of both their minds and their hearts. Lord, your word tells us that the kingdom heart is a stream of water in the hands of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will. Every man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs his heart. To do justice and righteousness is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Haughty eyes and a proud heart, the lamp of the wicked, their sin. Plans of the diligent surely lead us to abundance, so that everyone who is hasty would only come into property. Lord, lead us and with diligentness, Lord, if that's even a word. And Father, we pray that and know that you are sovereign, therefore, over all things. And we commit this evening unto you. Lead, guide, and direct each of these men in accordance to your sovereign will. And finally, Heavenly Father, we ask that you do find favor upon each of them in your common grace, that you would watch over these council members, other government officials, especially those that provide safety and protection to our town and the people of it. Would you show us all the way in which to go so that we may walk in? Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to commit this evening unto you. And I pray at this time and that our time together would glorify and honor you. In the name above all names, in the name of the one who came to be served, not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, if you will remain standing for us to say the Pledge of Allegiance, I think Alex is going to lead us tonight.
Please repeat after me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you, Alex.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so we have some recognitions and acknowledgments tonight. I'll get over there. I'm going to read a couple of them. So, the first one is a proclamation recognizing Public Service Awareness Week in the city of Belmont, North Carolina. Public Service Recognition Week. In honor of many of the public employees at the county and city levels. Whereas public servants support the people of Belmont every day across the city. They do the work that keeps our city moving forward. Whereas public employees uphold an oath to serving others and providing critical services. Whereas many public servants, including teachers, law enforcement officials, healthcare professionals, and others, put the well-being of our people before their own to create a better future for our city. Whereas career civil servants carry out the most fundamental purpose of government, to ensure public safety and represent the public interest in addressing social, economic, and political challenges. Whereas, without these public employees at every level, continuity would be impossible. Therefore, I, Joe Jordan, Mayor of the City of Belmont, do hereby announce and proclaim and set seal hereto that May 3rd through the 9th, 2026 is Public Service Recognition Week. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Belmont, North Carolina, to be affixed this 4th day of May 2026. So, as you're thinking and going through your day, and thinking all the ways that the city impacts your life, think about our public service people that are out there helping us every day. So we appreciate you all for that. The next one is a proclamation recognizing May 2026 as National Bike Month in the City of Belmont. Whereas since 1956, the League of American Bicyclists have celebrated National Bike Month during the month of May. And whereas according to the National Household Travel Survey, 40% of all daily trips are 2 miles or shorter in length, and biking is a viable transport alternative to driving, particularly over those short distances. And whereas high-quality bicycle facilities, together with pedestrian infrastructure and other transportation network improvements, can help Belmont achieve its goal for providing mobility choices by expanding the availability of accessible transportation alternatives for all people. And whereas the bicycle is an economical, healthy, convenient, and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent tool for recreation and enjoyment of Belmont's natural beauty and historic community. And whereas in the adopted plans for land use, mobility, and traffic safety, the City of Belmont has committed to improving safety for bicyclists and pedestrians throughout the community and expanding the bicycle network. And whereas biking in our community is a valuable option for a healthy and family-friendly activity, and a safe environment for bicyclists can support economic development and local businesses. And whereas the city recognizes the efforts from the Belmont Planning and Zoning, Police, and Parks and Recreation Department in promoting the benefits of biking as a form of healthy recreation and as an active mode of transportation to commute to school and work. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the month of May 2026 is hereby designated as National Bike Month in the city of Belmont, in an effort to encourage all within our community to rededicate ourselves to enjoying the benefits of biking and ensuring the safety of bicyclists in our community. Adopted this 4th day of May 2026. So if you have bicycles at home and you're taking a short trip this month, try to remember to get it out and take the family out for a short ride. The next proclamation is recognizing May 2026 as Historic Preservation Month in the city of Belmont. Whereas the city of Belmont is enriched by unique and diverse architecture, cultural, and historical heritage that reflects the character, traditions, and stories of its people from its early settlement along with the Catawba River to its development as a thriving textile and railroad community. And whereas Belmont's historic resources, including its downtown, neighborhoods, and cultural landmarks, embody the legacy of generations who contributions have helped shape the community's identity and sense of place. And whereas the Belmont Historic District, listed in the National Register of Historic Places, encompasses approximately 170 acres and includes more than 260 contributing buildings, structures, and sites representing architectural styles such as Colonial Revival, Tudor Revival, and Craftsman, reflecting the city's growth from the late 19th through the mid-20th centuries. And whereas the National Register designation recognizes the historical and architectural significance of Belmont's central business district and surrounding residential areas, highlighting the community's evolution as a prominent mill town and regional center of commerce, culture, and identity. Whereas historic preservation supports Belmont's economic viability by encouraging reinvestment, promoting heritage tourism, and providing opportunities such as state and federal tax incentives for rehabilitation of historic properties. And whereas the city of Belmont, through its partnership with the Gaston County Historic Preservation Commission and in cooperation with local organizations, is committed to promoting awareness, education, and stewardship of the community's historic and cultural resources. And whereas the National Historic Preservation Month provides an opportunity to celebrate Belmont's rich heritage, recognize the value of preserving historic places, and inspire residents to protect and enhance the city's historic assets for future generations. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the month of May 2026 is hereby designated as National Historic Preservation Month in the city of Belmont. And I, Mayor Joe Jordan, encourage all residents, businesses, and organizations to celebrate Belmont's heritage by participating in activities that promote historic preservation, education, and community pride. Adopted this 4th day of May 2026. So May is a busy month, but things to keep in mind and things definitely worth noting. And we have one more recognition or acknowledgement actually that I want to make that came in late, but it has come to our attention that Paula Wilkinson, that has headed up the BCO for over 20 years, is retiring. And so we wanted to take a moment. I don't think she's here, but we wanted to take a moment to thank her from the community for all the time and investment that she put into the BCO for the betterment of our community and to help those that needed it from time to time. So we wish her best in all of her future endeavors, and we're eternally grateful for the time, the 20 years that she invested in Belmont. So thank you for that. All right, well, I will entertain a motion to set the agenda.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
Mark, seconded by Alex. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is set. So with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Alex,
Second.
seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. All right, so that will move us right along to our regular agenda, item C1, public comment. And it looks like we have one person signed up for public comment, Brian Robinson. Mr. Robinson, if you would come up, and again, don't be afraid to get close to the microphone. We want to hear your voice. And just to go over the rules real quick, all speakers have up to 3 minutes on any topic. Speakers must sign up with the name and address. Please be respectful of city council, staff, and the public. So time for speakers to bring matters to the mayor and council's attention. There's no discussion or debate about items. If warranted, the mayor or city council may ask city staff to follow up with the speaker on his or her concerns. And this is separate from the other. We have 2 other public hearings tonight, so this is just general comment. So please, Ms. Robinson. Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Brian Robinson, reside at 2040 Village Farm Drive in Belmont. On behalf of the Belmont Historical Society, I just want to come and thank the city for the opportunity that y'all gave us to bring the Stowe Park Special Train to our 11th History Day a week ago, Saturday. Several of you were there in attendance, helped, Jim, Mark, Rosenstyle, City Manager Miles Braswell, conversation with him to try to get the ball rolling, to get this thing out of Public Works where it's stored. First time it's been in public in 13 years, brought out storage. And we had about 200 people that came through the museum, brought back a lot of memories for a lot of people to see that train back out there just for a short period of time. But on behalf of the rest of the board and myself, we thank you for the Public Works, especially Public Works Director Jonathan Wilson and all his crew guys. I met them down on Friday before, brought 6 or 8 guys down there, backed the trailer up, and came back right at 3 o'clock. Rain threatened, we wanted to get it out of there by 3. So thank you for working with us. Thank you for the partnership that we have, and look forward to more partnership in the years, because we're not getting any younger. You know, out of the 7 founders, only 2 are still with us. The rest have passed away, and ones that's kind of stepped in, we're getting older too. So 20 years from now, we've been existing for 21 years, but 20 years from now, it's going to look a lot different. So we hope the city, as through the years to come, that there's support there, you know, to keep this museum going. Have to work on it. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Brandon.
I'll follow up with that real quickly. I'm not going to belabor the point, but what a neat thing that was to see that. I mean, it was kind of knocked my eyes out. I always heard stories of the train that ran in Stowe Park, and I was always jealous of the kids that got to ride it. I always envisioned myself cruising around on it. But being able to actually see it restored, it is neat. It is a neat thing. So if you have the opportunity, definitely go by the Historic Society. There's so much there. So many, just all the different things our community has done over the years. It's amazing to see in one place. And I know we did have a longer conversation, Ms. Robinson, about what can we do to get the train out more so that people can see it. I think that's something I'd be interested in seeing happen, however that may evolve. So definitely something that's on my radar. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right, well, that will move us right along to agenda item C2, public hearing for the fiscal year 26-27 budget. So I will entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
Motion to go into public hearing.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Mark. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we are in public hearing. So Miles, who's?
Yeah, I can take it. Thank you, Mayor. Just the summary of the action is that this is based on state general statutes regarding the Budget and Fiscal Control Act of North Carolina requires us to have a public hearing for the proposed budget. And so the public hearing was advertised in the Gaston Gazette on April 24th, 2026, and on the city's website.
Okay.
And so I request that we hold the public hearing.
Yep, and I see that no one has signed up for public hearing. So with that, I will entertain a motion to come out of public hearing.
Motion to come out of public
All
hearing.
right, motion made by Jim,
Second.
second by Alex. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we are back out of public hearing, and that will take us to item C3, discussion of the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is the point in the budget calendar when the manager presents the budget to you all. Even though you saw a preview of the draft budget during the workshop, I've kind of laid out this, it's not so much of a presentation, but a speaking to you all regarding like the timeline, how the budget was formulated, broken down from the employees' perspective, operational perspectives, and then the water and sewer fund, stormwater fund, CIP plans, capital improvement plans, the approved staffing, and then the next steps. And so I'll go step by step through these items. Please feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions regarding any items that I mentioned. And if I can't answer them, I've got Assistant City Manager Kevin Kraus and Finance Director Jared Piles here to back me up if they have the information. Regarding the timeline, and so on January 5th, 2026, this budget process officially began. You all, council, adopted a budget calendar. On February 27th, there was a council retreat. You all discussed various priorities, established those priorities, which allowed staff really to incorporate those things into the draft budget. On March 2nd, that was the deadline for the department heads to submit all the requests to staff. On April 6th, the draft budget book was delivered to each of you for your review. And then between April 6th and April 20th, we had the city council workshop. At that time, the budget was presented. We had various discussions on that. Tonight was the public hearing for the budget, and then right now I'm presenting the budget to you all. We have to make it available for public inspection as well, and so a copy of it is in the clerk's office. So if anybody wishes to inspect it from the public, please feel free to reach out to our city clerk, and she can arrange a time for that to occur. So what remains after this is that we hope to adopt the budget on June 1st during the council meeting. There is some time between now and June 1st if there's any recommended changes or things that we need to look at. We do have one workshop between those two, so we can always add an item in there if we need to discuss it further. I would like to thank staff really for working with finance and administration throughout the process. I'd also like to thank you all, Mayor and Council, for your vision and goals, really to invest in employees, provide a high level of operational service, and continuing to improve the city's infrastructure. So thank you all for that. Regarding the budget itself, the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget amounts are for the general fund, $32,950,126. For the water and sewer fund, it's $13,844,060. And for the stormwater fund, $966,968. You also have the budget in front of you, and there's a table there, and it shows the similar to the workshop. It has the adopted fiscal year 25-26 budget that we're currently in, this amended budget that we're currently in, what the department's requests were, the manager's proposed budget on April 6th, and then tonight's budget, which I just read out. Regarding the general fund, the budget percentage breakdown by department is the mayor and council's is 0.5%, administration is 6.4%, the attorney is 0.5%, planning and zoning is 4.4%, the police department is 26.6%, the fire department is 14.9%, the streets department is 10.3%, sanitation is 5.7%, community development is 1.8%, recreation is 4.4%, economic development is 0.5%, and capital outlay is 16.5%, and debt is 7.5%. Just a few items to point out how we structured the budget. We maintained the current tax rate, so we're not requesting that we have any tax increase. 1 cent on the tax rate is $348,026. Property revenues or ad valorem revenues are budgeted at a 99% collection rate, and they're estimated to increase 7% from the previous year's adopted budget and 4.3% over the amended budget. The sales tax revenues are estimated to increase 20% over the previous year's adopted budget and 2.8% over the amended budget. And sales tax collection percentage increase is based on the North Carolina Department of Revenue's forecast, and they show that there's an increase of 3.1% from fiscal year 25-26. And so the projected final fiscal year 25-26, what we're currently in, collection is $6.9 million. So you can see how that aligns with that revenue line item. So moving to the next step is the employee section. There is a 2% cost of living adjustment, as well as up to a 3% merit for employees. During the March 16th City Council workshop, our insurance broker discussed the potential health insurance rate increase. And at that time, we talked about a self-funded insurance option. Staff inserted a 25% health insurance coverage increase just as a placeholder on April 6th, and we had that discussion at the last meeting. Since that time, we have talked with our broker, and we do plan to have another item at the workshop. We'll dig down in this one just a little bit deeper, but the budget that you have in front of you currently is budgeted at 43% increase. The fire department, they have their new professional development program. It has
I'm
been
sorry, if I may ask
Yes.
a question. So at the upcoming workshop, we'll discuss the self-funded option, or how does that?
we can discuss it, but we've had a discussion internally where the quote for self-insurance came back at like $3.2 million. And so I know that we had talked for the past couple months that that's probably going to be the best option. At that point, it was $2.3 million for self-funded. Now it's $3.2 million. So we feel like this is not the year, even though we were thinking that this is probably the year that we would move towards that. But just after further discussions, we feel like it's not the best thing to do. So we've gone back and we've got an option that we'd like to present to council regarding a plan A and a plan B for employees. So we'll dig down into that just a little bit deeper.
That's just for the regular health insurance?
Regular health
Okay.
insurance, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. But it is budgeted at the 43%, and that includes the option that we're going to present in at the workshop.
Mhm.
Like I said, the fire department's professional development program has been established and funded. There were 6 position requests by departments, and you all heard the comment that 0 were recommended by the manager. The department requests are as follows: in administration, a communications manager. The fire department was a fire inspector. The Parks and Recreation department was a recreation specialist. And the police department were 2 police officers and a code enforcement officer. There's various adjustments in the salary lines based on a few things that are taking place. And some of the differences include that some employees were hired at different rates than previous employees. Position reclassifications were based on interdepartmental promotions. Professional development and education certifications were received, and certain positions being allocated between the general fund and the enterprise fund based on their duties. And so there's a reason why that line item has fluctuated from like last year's budget. The mayor's salary is transferred out of the mayor and council compensation line item and moved to the fire department's professional services line item, and that's to assist with future grant opportunities. Our employee compensation study is scheduled every 3 years per our personnel policy, and that study is funded for this coming fiscal year. The study will be performed during this coming fiscal year, with implementation proposed for next fiscal year, July 1st, 2027. The fund balance appropriation during the fiscal year 25-26 budget process to fund the police department's salary increases in their ALO program have now been incorporated to the police department's line item. So there's the difference there between the two years. We have that one fully funded as well. Okay, let's move into the operations. Our waste and recycling contract, you all know, is expiring, and this service contract was issued through a RFP process. Currently, the city subsidizes the cost by contributing 50% through the general fund revenues, with the remaining 50% paid through user fees adopted in our fee schedule. This line item is fully funded to the maximum increase currently, but the contract negotiations are still underway.
Question.
Yes.
If contract negotiations are still underway, how do we know what the maximum increase will be?
We took the maximum in the bid and put it
Okay.
into the budget.
Okay.
So we feel like that line item is funded at the max, and so as we negotiate, we can anticipate that number is going to go down
Mm-hmm.
When do we expect those negotiations to be finalized?
this week.
Okay.
Yeah, the goal is to wrap that up this week because it's on the workshop agenda.
Okay.
Yep. So in 2 weeks, you'll have that contract in front of you. The Streets Department, the parking lot lease line item reflects the revised parking lot lease rates that were negotiated. In similar fashion, that will have to come before you all because that is lease agreements, and so we have not executed any agreements. We've just budgeted for the amounts that are inside of the leases.
So question, because that just jogged my memory on something. What about our relationship with Belmont Land Investment? Have they come back with any type of proposals or changes to our fee structures?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
That is what that
is. That is
Okay.
it. Yep. They have, we leased 3 parking lots from them, and then they went through their process to hire that third party. And it showed the new rate, which Attorney Wilson and I met with them several times to negotiate that rate down.
What about Frady Field? Any change to that as well?
Yes, that's one of them.
The
Yeah,
parking or the field itself?
really 2 parking lots. The Imperial lot, which is on Mill Street behind Sammy's Restaurant.
Yeah.
Abgant Park, the gravel lot at Abgant. And then Crescent Ball Field, Frady Park, the entire park.
Where is the memo sent out in regards to what the new lease arrangement is or the proposal is?
I
The-
think,
The leases have not been sent out to you all. We're going to bring that to you, but the amount that I budgeted was based on the negotiated rate was in the April 20th packet, and it was in the tune of $121,000. It went from, I think it was $33,000 for those 3 to $121,000. And that's the negotiated rate down. From what
which
they
was
initially-
negotiated down from 300.
From what they initially
Yeah.
proposed.
They initially proposed 300.
No, I don't think they initially proposed 300. That's what the study reported, but then they gave us a 50% discount and then had a rate structure in there, in which at that point I negotiated down past the rate structure that they had proposed.
So we're going from 33K to 121K.
Yes,
Annualized.
that's what's budgeted. Right.
And that's for, again, sorry, this one's, I think, kind of important. That's for all the parking lots and Frady Field, the park itself.
Those 3 that they
Gotcha.
own. And that is aligned for the June 1st city council meeting, where you'll receive the lease agreements, which include the cost inside the leases.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The planning department's office safety project is funded. From the council retreat, the following items are funded. We funded the Stowe property purchase, the City Hall design and renovation, North Belmont Fire Station design, North Belmont Fire Station property acquisition, the main fire station property acquisition, replace 2 fire engines, Project Tundra design, and Ford Center renovation, the cost to renovate just to prevent the deterioration only. And the street resurfacing. And so at the April 20th meeting, we'd mentioned there was a few items that were outstanding. We've received the following items and have been incorporated into this budget. Our workers' compensation numbers came in, so they're all plugged into the appropriate lines. The planning department, you recall the land development code contract was budgeted this year. It won't be complete in this year, so that amount will have to be budgeted for next fiscal year. So we put that amount in their professional services line item. The North Belmont Fire Department design and the Project Tundra design, those two items are now funded.
Do we have an update on Project Tundra from the last meeting?
Not substantial.
And we also have our updated health insurance numbers, like I just called out. The one item that's remaining that we need to receive the proposal for is our property and liability insurance. And that's with the league. We reached out to the league. They said that the final cost will be due, will be submitted to the city in mid-May. So currently, we funded a 10% increase in this year's budget over last year, just as a placeholder. So we're thinking that hopefully it'll be a 10% or less increase for us for property and liability. So really, that's the only item that's remaining for the general fund.
So if, obviously certain things increased from our discussions on April 20th, not the least of which is the health insurance rate increase is higher than the higher number we had discussed at the workshop. And obviously, since you've presented us with a balanced budget,
What's the offset?
yeah, what's the offset?
The total offset is a good question. I think it's in the tune of $4 million.
But
Or
where is
is
it
that
coming
$2
from?
million?
Yeah, where is
You're-
it?
you're-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fund balance appropriation. I can tell you the exact cost here. I've got them on a sheet of paper. The planning department's professional services was $245,000. The health insurance was that increase that I recalled in between. I don't know the exact figure, but the percentage increase there. Workers' compensation, the amount was $177,000. And the fire department design was $775,000, and Project Tundra design was $2.1 million. So those two are 2.875.
Is that basically the change between the 29.6 million in the 4.6 draft and the 32.9 you're showing now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming that, like, for example, the fire department and Project Tundra, the fund balance appropriation would be for those?
Correct.
Okay.
The fund balance appropriation total is $4,132,580. So that's the amount that, well, that's the fund, the capital projects, $4.1 million. You know the difference, Kevin? The total is 4.573. 4.573?
Okay, yeah, so you've got capital projects of 4.1 million, a $4.5 million fund balance appropriation. So then I guess some of that you're rolling over for the planning update, and then I guess a few other smaller things, but okay.
Yeah, a few other smaller, I think we had a lease for a high-tech computer, for lack of a better term, at the police department, for one of their
Supercomputer.
supercomputer that for
Oh,
one of their
that computer.
investigation computers is $12,000.
Oh, wow, that is
Yeah.
a supercomputer.
It is
Okay.
a supercomputer, and then for economic development, $25,000 in that line item was to transfer to the DVDA, what we typically do for Friday Night Live. So there's a few small things in there, but nothing substantial. Y'all ready to move forward with water and sewer?
Maybe just real quick. So we're in May right now, June. Like, what about Project Tundra? I'm gonna bring it up again, right? I mean, we said last time, let's put the deadline to this time because we need to allow staff to be able to adequately, appropriately do the budget. Like, what's the timeline, I guess? Do we have one?
I have not spoken with the person,
Have you?
so I don't really know the timeline on it.
I have had one additional conversation, and it was an update that there were some people moving over here and so there's nothing ready.
So how can we budget and how can we operate off of a plan of,
Yeah, and that's
Nothing,
what
right,
Miles
no
and I were talking to Parks in our pre-meeting meeting is keeping the funds, you know, what happens if we keep the funds in for the CIP and then we ultimately end up not pursuing it?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to spend those funds. Say the project fell apart. I mean, we'd have an extra $2.1 million sitting there, which means that we don't have to spend $2.1 million. It'll go back to unassigned fund balance.
Well, we
You
don't
can
actually
allocate
pull
it to
down
another.
until we need it, right?
What's that?
We don't actually pull it down until we need it, right? If
We-
it's coming out of fund balance.
we
Right.
don't, but like where my headspace is if council collectively has said that we would be willing to use 2.1
Well, yeah, it ties
million,
it up.
I would anticipate we would also be willing to use that to do other projects that are needed within the city, right?
Mhm.
So in my mind, if we've already come up to that level of comfort to pull from the fund balance of 2.1, we don't have a for sure thing here. All we're gonna do is carry forward this 2.1 and potentially not have anything when it could be benefiting other areas of the city.
No, yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm.
Because we've been
That's-
waiting on this
Yeah,
since,
well
what,
noted.
February or March?
Yeah, well, it's been longer. So.
Yeah.
February 27th, when you all approved the project.
Yeah. Where's my level of comfort? Hard to say. What I will say is I think there's been a lot of time invested in pursuing it by a lot of people, but I completely agree at some point.
Well, there's also
you
a
know, you gotta-
cost-time benefit too.
Yeah,
At
there
what
is.
point do you pull that parachute?
Well,
Sure.
if we're just waiting on the MOU, right?
Yes.
Like, it seems like the hang-up is having someone on their end draft it. Like, is there anything on that, like, if we sent them a proposed MOU?
Well, we certainly could. I mean, I don't think, so the initial game plan was that it would be, they would draft it. Last I discussed, it was being drafted with the third party. There's now a member of the third party that is exiting, and that's thrown the MOU process into some disarray.
I mean, I'm certainly, what I don't want is, Jim, why don't you draft it? Because I really don't have the time, but, you
Jim,
know.
are you suggesting you would like to draft this?
No, I'm certainly, I'm suggesting the opposite, actually. But in my experience as an attorney, sometimes if you want something done and the other, even if it's the other side's responsibility and you want it done, you just say, well, we'll do it. I had a case where we wanted the other side to bring a third party into the case, and we couldn't do it because of some clauses in the contract between us and this third party. We wanted, the plaintiff could do it. They just, well, I don't know. We finally said, we'll do it for you. We'll draft the amended pleadings, we'll do this, we'll do that. All you have to do is file it. And that got it done. So what I'm saying is maybe it's like, if that's the hang up, let's just, we'll do it.
It
and
very
that'll
well
take care
could
of it.
be. I think your line of reasoning is right on. And I have discussed the specific terms of it. So I think I know what is being expected. So if we want to have
Well,
staff
cool.
draft it,
It would-
you
it
know,
would
I
be-
can give them what I know about it, and we can send it over and see what happens.
Well, before we do that, the expected terms, are they wanting to change it? Is that the hiccup?
No,
No.
the terms that the mayor speaks of is the exact same terms
Mhm.
that we had spoke about with both parties.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it aligned.
I don't think
with-
anything's changed. It's literally just a matter of,
Yeah.
so to Jim's point, I think we can do that.
Yeah, if we draft something, just sign it. Maybe
Yeah.
that's all it takes, if we get lucky.
Let's just get it done,
Okay.
right?
So can we direct staff to draft one? Do we need a motion to do that? Parks?
No,
Okay.
we'll just take it on.
Okay. Thanks for that, Alex, that clarification.
Sorry.
Sure.
If that's not the hangup,
Yeah.
if this is a matter of timing, is there, and you decided to leave it in, and it fell apart, can it be reallocated to
You can,
the project that council's talking about?
right, because it's budgeted at that point. I mean,
It-
we already have the
yeah.
funds, we're using,
lose
fund balance.
No, I know we don't.
You don't lose the opportunity to reallocate, it's just a timing.
It is a timing thing, but you know, what my concern is, and I get what you're saying, Parks, I know we're not gonna lose it, because we're basically pulling it out of the fund balance, right? But if we've already come up with a level of comfort that we'd be willing to spend it in this fiscal year on a project that's gonna benefit the community, I don't see why we just continue to tie this up when this has been a conversation for
Yeah, it's basically the opportunity cost
How long?
of tying.
3,
while.
2 years?
It's
So,
going on a year.
I mean, we're at the point where we've all said yes, we've nodded our heads, it's time to move forward, and if they don't want to move forward, we move on, and then benefit other areas, right? That's where my headspace is, because I could see this going on and on
I'm just
and
not
on.
sure this will get done before you need to move.
That's fine, I'm okay with waiting with this, like, I'm just one vote on this, and if we think that this will do it, then let's do it, because I'm for the project itself, but I just don't want us to kid ourselves that we come towards the next budget cycle next year, and we have this exact same conversation. That's my concern.
Yeah, and I don't want to mislead you. I don't know that the hangup is that. That is my assumption, because the discussions I've had is I'm just waiting on receiving the MOU. So if we can short circuit that by providing ourselves, I think
Exhaust
that would make
all
sense.
options, right? Thank you,
All
Courtney.
right, yeah.
Okay, thank you. For the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, this fund is solely supported by user fees. There's an 8% water fee increase and an 8% sewer fee increase incorporated into the budget. And this is based on the water and sewer rate study. And you can see in here, just I put some background that in 23-24, we were $1.2 million that we had to take from our net position, which is the fund balance enterprise fund, to balance the budget. And then during that year, there was that rate study that was adopted by council. And so we've increased water and sewer rates over the past 2 fiscal years due to that study. So for this year, there's those increases proposed. Two Rivers Utilities is increasing their sewer rates by 7.5%, and we pay Two Rivers to discharge a portion of our city to them. So we'll have to absorb that 7.5%. In the waste treatment telephone line item, you saw that one increase was to cover a one-time payment to the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. So once we make that payment, our line item will go back to a more of a normal flow year to year. In the waste treatment, we've budgeted our sludge removal line is funded to maintain the plant within our permit parameters. In the stormwater fund, that fund is solely supported by fees, and really the contracted repairs line item has been increased to support our ongoing repairs to the system. For the capital improvement plans, to fund capital projects, $4,132,580 is budgeted as a fund balance appropriation. The total for the 5-year general fund CIP is $84.4 million. The total 10-year for the water and sewer CIP is $134.3 million. And so for fiscal year 26-27, $45.1 million is budgeted. Seems like a large amount, but we have 2 major projects that are taking place. We do have a $10 million state budget allocation that we're utilizing to fund the engineering and construction of the moratorium project. And the project is estimated at $16.7 million. We anticipate the bidding to occur this fiscal year. And we do have a placeholder inside our water and sewer CIP for the wastewater treatment project for Charlotte Water, and that's $26 million.
Question,
Yes.
because so I get that we've got this placeholder, we've got the 16.7 million, but if you look at the total budget for the water and sewer fund, it's 13 million, 13.8 million, so that's where I'm getting confused. between, so if we say we've got 45.1 million budgeted for capital projects in the water and sewer fund, I get what they are, but if you go back, if you look at the line items and the total budget, like even on the first page here, what's the total budget for the water and sewer fund? $13.8 million. So I'm confused by that. And maybe someone more intelligent than me can explain it to me.
Well, you'll probably have to get someone more intelligent than me then, maybe Jared, that could explain.
Yeah, so with that specifically, we're anticipating to finance that. We don't know the terms or the financing costs. So when that time comes, we will amend the budget.
Okay.
Recognize loan proceeds to pay for the Charlotte Water project.
Okay.
And we typically do that with all of us projects when it comes to debt related items. So the only items in the capital currently are cash funded items.
Okay.
If you look at the CIP plan for water and sewer, you look at the year 1, 2027, and you look down that column, and you can see down at the bottom, it shows your annual capital outlay, and for the annual debt, the grants, and then the annual capital outlay. Jim, if that makes any better sense as far as how that thing is structured all the way down at the bottom of that spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. For the approved staffing, we have 196 total full-time positions. And I'll just go down through and read those out to you all. Administration, you have 9 positions. Planning and zoning, 7. Community development, 3. Police, 56. Fire, 41. Streets, 14. Parks and recreation, 8. Water and sewer, 27. Wastewater treatment plant, 15. Water plant, 14. Stormwater, 2, totaling 196.
And that's approved positions. They're not necessarily all filled at this
Correct.
time. Is that
That's
correct?
correct. That's what we have budgeted for this
Okay.
year is 196 positions. So that's the same as we had last year. Also want to make note that there is a draft fee schedule that's included in your budget book. I don't plan to go through all the fees, but we'll share those final recommendations with you all. Just one note that we have increased most of the lines by 3% just across the board on the fees. There are a few lines that have changed due to increases or additions to the fee schedule through this fiscal year. So there's a few additions to the fee schedule. So given that the budget hearing has occurred and the budget has been presented, we're open for any comments, recommendations, or any further meetings that we need to have before June 1st. And so, Mayor and Council, I appreciate taking the time to listen through the budget process. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Miles. Appreciate it. And thank you to you and to staff for continuing to work on getting this to us in a timely manner and in a balanced format. I know that takes a lot of effort to do, so we appreciate that and everyone's efforts. Did anyone have any questions for Miles about this? What's been given to us this evening? I know we'll have further time to consider, but if there's anything else,
I have a very specific question.
Okay.
So with our festivals, I'm thinking specifically like Garibaldi. We used to have like that kids area up in the upper field where we had like the inflatables and the rides and stuff. I remember for a while we just had inflatables, and at one point we had a big, somewhat heated conversation about having mechanical rides. And now it seems like we don't have anything. So like, is that I noticed it kind of for Christmas too. Like we used to have more, we had like a little kids train and the hay ride and a few other things. I know some of the programming decisions for those events have shifted in the last couple of years, but I'm wondering if the removal of like the more kid-friendly activities is being driven by budgetary concerns, or if there's something else kind of going on there.
I could ask Cassidy to come to the microphone if she can answer those kind of questions. They're the ones who really program the event, so I think it would be better coming from Cassidy's standpoint on how they go through that process to align certain things for certain events.
The last question specifically was related to the discussion a few years ago about we don't want to invest in having this multiple times a year, so we transitioned all of those items to Food Fest, and then within pushing Garibaldi as an arts, more arts-centric event after that decision. So we tried to keep Food Fest primarily for the younger, and then growing Garibaldi towards arts and experiences like that. However, there are still some big things going on there. It's just maybe not the very in your face and tell you want to go and pay for it.
Well, that would be awesome. Okay. Well, what about Christmas? Because like I know that's now shifted to like a Bavarian Fest, which maybe
And those, the Christmas Village you're thinking of, the Bavarian Festival,
Yeah.
the BBA events. So the
Okay.
city hasn't traditionally had like a holiday event where we offer things like that.
okay. 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 No, that's fair. Let me maybe just sort of explain where this is coming from, and maybe you guys can kind of do what you want with it. It's like I brought my youngest to Garibaldi, and we were kind of wandering around through all the booths, and there wasn't a ton for us. Like we did the chalk thing and the Historical Society had the finger painting and stuff, which he did for a little bit, but he kept asking me, he was like, where's the bouncy house? Where's the bouncy house? And I'm like, I don't think they have it this year. I know that like in the past we've done like, one year we had like race cars. I think the tourism board coordinated that, and then we did like a touch-a-truck thing with some of the public works. Oh, is that a Boo Fest? Oh, okay, okay. It would just personally make my life a little bit easier if there was something that like they could climb on or touch or yes, yes, because like you wander through the booths and they're like wanting to grab all the like really expensive handmade art, and you're like no. So and I know there are lots of other. This is not a problem unique to me. So to the extent that it's possible to figure out a way to incorporate something like that into our events, and if we need to talk about money for that, this is obviously the time to have that conversation. But that would just be kind of my feedback on that. I mean, it's a great event. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not.
I just want to make sure it's something everybody feels like they love the next.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Cassidy. Yeah, and I'll say just as one of the advisors that sits in on those meetings, I think it's always a budget thing. I know they spend a lot of time trying to figure out what can we spend on for this, what can we spend on for that, and it's things that are just, I had no idea they were as expensive as they are.
Yeah, I know
to
one year
get
we looked
things
at
out.
like the Ferris wheel was
Yeah,
like
it is. But
fun but really expensive.
yeah, but good point. Maybe that's something that we look into moving forward. What direction we want to see those city events go, and what kind of funding will need to be done for that. I know DBDA does a good job getting sponsorships for a lot of their events, but it goes quick.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Okay, any further questions for staff or Miles on this agenda item, sorry. All right. Well, if not, that'll move us right along to agenda item C4. So I will, or public hearing for ZA 2026.01, zoning map amendment for Quality Plus. So I will entertain a motion to go back into public hearing.
Motion to go into public
A
hearing.
motion made by Alex,
Second.
seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I do not have anyone signed up for public hearing,
Public comment.
public comment, sorry. So I will entertain a motion to come out.
Oh, no.
No,
They give their presentation in the
During?
public. Yes, staff
apologies.
presents. And then the applicant generally has an opportunity to speak, whether they sign up or not. That's sort of baked in.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, so floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Hales. For those who don't know me, I'm one of the planners here at the Planning Department of Belmont. I'm going to be presenting for the public hearing item ZA 2026.01, which is Quality Plus. The request 685 square foot convenience store and 5 fuel dispensers that serve up to 10 cars vehicles on a 1.3-acre lot. The applicant is Quality Oil Company LLC, the representative of West Winford. I believe the engineer is here as well, Brian Upton.
Are we having microphone troubles? And Joe, give your usual spiel.
Sure, feel free to get nice and close. That microphone does not pick up well.
All right, the property owner is North Lake Partners LLC. Current zoning is Highway Commercial, which is HC, and the proposed zoning is Highway Commercial Conditional District, or HCCD. Bit of background about the project. On July 14th, 2025, Quality Oil Company LLC submitted the initial application for sketch plan review, which was approved on December 18th of 2025. During the review, it was determined that the project would require a traffic study. Schematic plans were then submitted for review on February 25th of 2026, and the traffic study was finalized on March 16th, 2026. For the project location, it's located on the corner of Wilkinson Boulevard and Browntown Road. The address is currently 6915 Wilkinson Boulevard. It's about half a mile from the intersection of Wilkinson Boulevard and Park Street, and the site is located within Wilkinson Boulevard's highway corridor overlay. For site conditions, the site is a double frontage at both Wilkinson Boulevard and Browntown Road, as it is a corner lot. The northern portion of the property has a steep incline leading up to the adjacent residential properties. The lot width is approximately 355 feet along Wilkinson Boulevard and 170 feet along Browntown Road. And there's an existing 8-inch sanitary sewer with 20-foot easement along Wilkinson Boulevard, along with overhead power lines that span along the southern boundary. And currently, the proposed site is just an empty vacant lot. Current zoning is highway commercial, as I mentioned earlier, and it's also located within the highway corridor overlay, which is the Wilkinson Boulevard overlay. And for nearby zoning, there is rural residential to the north, and that's located within the ETJ. And there's general residential located to the northeast of the property, and then highway commercial along both sides of the Wilkinson Boulevard along the property. For the current plan, it is a 1.3-acre lot, as I mentioned before, and the applicant is seeking relief to allow automotive services within HCO for any lot under 2 acres. Additionally, there's a 685 square foot drive-through convenience store with no public entry that is planned right to the left of the pumps there. 5 fuel dispensers that serve up to 10 vehicles at a time, as I mentioned. And the stormwater basin shown in the corner of the lot along Wilkinson and Browntown is proposed as a stormwater basin with a fence surrounding the whole area if it's determined to be needed. There is a covered vending machine area to the north of the site with the walkways that are proposed along from the building itself and the pumps. For landscaping and the buffers, there's a single row of street trees proposed on the opposite side of the sidewalks along both frontages. As requested by the city engineer and due to existing utilities, the applicant is seeking relief to remove a row of street trees along Wilkinson Boulevard and shift the location of the Browntown street trees to the other side of the sidewalk. I will say that they did agree to do the street trees as it was needed, but because of the utilities, the city engineer did request that they did not install those trees. There is a 15-foot type A buffer with a fence proposed along the northern boundary, and the applicant is seeking a reduction of the 30-foot requirement between HC and residential properties. And there's type B semi-opaque screening that's required for all parking visible from the street. As far as the architecture, there's a stone skirt along all sides of the building. Hardy board is proposed on the walls above the skirt, and the applicant is seeking relief to allow the use of this material. Staff did support this request, as this material would typically be allowed if the building was already existing, but because it's a new build, it is not. And then a drive-through window is featured on the elevations to the rear of Wilkinson Boulevard. For parking, there were 3 parking spaces, including 1 ADA space that was proposed on the site, and this meets the LDC requirements for this use. Parking lot is to be screened by a Type B semi-opaque screening, and the applicant is seeking to allow parking to be located within the Browntown frontage. This relief is requested due to it being a corner lot and creating that double frontage. And then for transportation, I will pass it along to our transportation planner, Reagan, and she will go over all that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello.
Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, perfect. Just a couple quick points to make to you tonight about the transportation elements of this project. The project is required to make a couple of frontage improvements along the 2 frontages. So along Wilkinson Boulevard, they're required to install a 10-foot multi-use path. Along Browntown Road, they're required to install an 8-foot sidewalk. And the applicant is doing both of those things. They are also, at the request of staff, providing additional pedestrian striping through the parking lot to ensure there's safe, clear movement for pedestrians on the site as they're crossing the path of vehicles. As Michael mentioned earlier, it was determined that this project would need a traffic study. It triggered both the daily threshold for new trips as well as the AM and PM peak thresholds. So the applicant agreed to perform that study, and Kittleson and Associates was selected as the consultant. When we held our scoping meeting and we looked at the trip generation estimates and the land use code for the site, in keeping with some of the past projects and the recent traffic studies we've done, we saw that there was going to be a significant amount of pass-by trips that would come out of the total trip generation. And so staff authorized a transportation technical memorandum rather than a full TIA for this project. And so with that, I'll hand things over to Justin Banson, the lead engineer and project manager with Kittleson, to walk you through the study.
Good evening. My name is Justin Manson with Kittleson Associates. As Reagan mentioned, we ended up doing a TTM for this one instead of a TIA. The key elements of the TTM are essentially the same as what we'd have in a TTM. It's just going to be a little bit more of a streamlined documentation format. The study area for this project was a half-mile radius around the project site. Again, that's reflecting a little bit of that streamlined analysis with a half-mile radius. 4 key intersections were identified between the city and NCDOT staff for evaluation. A 5th study intersection at Catawba and Park was added, which is just slightly outside of that half-mile buffer. So the 5 key intersections ended up being Wilkinson at Browntown at the site frontage, the Park Wilkinson intersection just to the east, or excuse me, just to the west. Intersection 3 is then the Park intersection at the Arby's entrance, and then number 4 is Park at Browntown. Within the TTM, we looked at a few different things, looking at the trip generation distribution, understanding the existing operational and safety performance at each of those intersections, looking at what the impact of the project site was going to be, and then looking at potential mitigation at each of those study intersections. As Reagan mentioned, the raw site trip generation was over the city's 1,000 daily vehicle threshold, 1,720 daily trips. For this type of gas station use, the Institute of Transportation Engineers standard manuals identify a roughly 60% pass-by rate. That brings us down to a net new external trips of about 688 on the daily basis. For the AM and PM peaks during that rush commute hour, we're looking at 39 total trips, so 19 in, 20 out. And during the PM peak, 61 total trips, 31 in, 30 out. As part of the operational analysis, we looked at existing conditions, 2025 counts, and then we looked at a 2026 condition without the project, and then with adding the Quality Plus project on top of it. For that year of growth, we looked at 2% general regional growth, and then we also added in traffic from 4 specific projects in the vicinity: Alliance Bank, Residence Inn, Stowe Multifamily, and Han Hunter RTAP. The Stowe Multifamily and Han Hunter are just on the other side of I-85 in Mount Holly, so making sure that we're capturing some of that unbuilt, approved development in the vicinity. And the TTM was prepared in accordance with NCDOT and city traffic requirements, traffic study requirements. So the overall findings of the analysis was the identification of mitigation needed at the Wilkinson Boulevard Browntown intersection there at the site frontage. The installation of a new traffic signal was identified as the mitigation at that location. It meets warrants with the project site, with the project traffic at that intersection to both address some existing safety performance there with severe crashes and previous fatality, as well as mitigating those operational impacts. No mitigation was required at the other study intersections. They were all adding a second or two of delay. It was, the impact was so small for any individual movement. The other area that was identified was maintaining clear lines of sight from each of the project driveways, which the project developer has agreed to. One is a sight line to the east along the eastern site frontage, and one is to the north. To the east, we've got a existing fence that's covered in vegetation that just needs to get pared back. And then to the north, there's an adjacent property owner that has a split rail fence that's within the right of way that needs to get pushed back to make sure that there's sufficient sight lines. So, Reagan, did you want to hit the rest? All right.
Moving right along. To summarize, the applicant, as Justin noted, has agreed to all of the required mitigations that were included in the TTM. And I do want to make note that in addition to that, the applicant has also agreed, as part of the construction of the traffic signal at Wilkinson and Browntown, they've also agreed to construct the westbound right turn lane from Wilkinson Boulevard onto Browntown. That was originally required and bonded as part of the Morris project, or Reverie Belmont is now what it's known as. And so the city has received funds through a bond that is converting into a payment in lieu in a couple months. This applicant has agreed that if the project is approved, we will pass the funds through to them, and they will complete that construction as part of their construction on the traffic signal. So that's all we have for transportation, and with that, I'll hand it back over to Michael to present the rest of the project.
Got a
Unless
couple
there are questions, in which case
Before we
I'll
go
answer
too-
them.
Before
Sure.
we go too fast there,
Yeah.
I've got 2. So, real quick, this designated area, have we double-checked with the Gaston Cleveland Lincoln MPO to see if there's any proposed projects in NCDOT?
Yes, that's right.
We're good?
Yep,
Okay.
yes, we did. We checked with them, and part of our standard process is to check against the MTP, the CTP with the county, and then also to check with our neighboring jurisdictions.
Okay,
Mhm.
Can we go back a couple of slides to this proposed stoplight?
Yep.
Okay, so Wilkinson is absolutely terrible on the Charlotte side because of all of those stoplights after stoplight after stoplight. We have our existing issue on South Point Road right now, right in front of the high school, where there's no synchronization. Are we not just, and I was just in this afternoon coming here. This is absolutely terrible during rush hour. Let's talk a little bit more about this stoplight here, because I think this is going to be quite impactful, right?
Sure. I'll defer to Justin to primarily speak to this, but I do want to emphasize that this signal is something that's been recommended and been being discussed for
I think the
quite some time
stoplight-
with NCDOT and Division 12 from a safety perspective.
Well, I think that
But-
stoplight off of South Point Road was discussed and recommended as well, and we see what that's done with traffic. So
Yeah, I'll let Justin speak to the
maybe we chat
synchronization.
this one through a little bit.
Sure. I certainly appreciate your perspective and question there. For context, the placement of the signal is approximately the same distance as the Walmart signal to the west, so you have pretty even spacing through that point. Obviously, we prefer not to add signals where we can for the bottlenecks that you're describing. However, at this particular location, it is a T intersection, excuse me, it's a T intersection with the fourth leg being a very low volume driveway to the Napa Auto Parts store. So it is a four-legged intersection. But because the volumes on the side street aren't the same as like you would get at Wilkinson and Park, the majority of the green time is going to be going along the main line. So even with being able to have that additional signal there, it's not going to be the bottleneck in terms of the overall operations along the corridor. The Park Wilkinson intersection is still going to be driving the performance along the corridor there. It's kind of
Question.
similar to how you would see the Walmart signal. You'll get a short queue built up and then it'll flush through.
If we don't like adding traffic signals, why did we not just make it mandatory to take a right off of Browntown Road as opposed to crossing the entirety of Wilkinson? And then if you want to go down to Charlotte, just make a U-turn up there at the intersection.
I'm not sure.
Because
following
the
what you're
light
asking.
there is to allow folks coming down Browntown Road to be able to take a left on Wilkinson to head towards Charlotte,
You're
correct?
talking about making it
So-
a right out?
So it's a combination of things. It's allowing existing traffic that's making a left off of Browntown onto Wilkinson, but it also allowing traffic to be able to make the left off of Wilkinson onto Browntown into Quality Plus there as well, and for the existing residents. So there's an existing pattern of drivers making left turns at that location through higher speed traffic, which is creating those issues with those more severe crashes.
We talked about that at the TAC meeting, because the other end of Browntown is a right in, right out.
Mm-hmm.
So what the DOT staff said was that if you make the other end a right in, right out, it makes it very difficult for the people who live back there
Correct.
to basically do anything but go in a big circle
I
anytime
see.
they need to go
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And
I
it
don't
puts
know.
more
I
pressure, and it
have
puts
a
more pressure
No,
on
but
the
I
Park
mean, it's a
Wilkinson
good point,
intersection
though.
for U-turns
Yeah.
as well. So if you're coming out and you want to make a left turn today off of Browntown or coming out of that Quality Plus, now you're forcing everybody to the Park Wilkinson intersection to make U-turns to come back to head eastbound. So there's no perfect solution, but in this particular location, again, you have enough spacing there from that main Park Wilkinson intersection, and because you're operating as a simple signal configuration there, you're able to really maintain most of the green time staying on the main line. The side street can run at the same time as the Park Street is running, and so effectively you have the main line movements along Wilkinson running contiguous there, so it doesn't have to be the bottleneck. But signal coordination would be desirable. When we evaluated this, well,
Would be
that's a-
desirable or would be
would be
certain?
desirable from an NCDOT side of things. So I think that's the coordination piece is continuing.
Well,
to-
and I think that's in your TTM that says it will be
Yep.
synced and.
And so whether that is.
But Jim, you get where I'm coming
I
from.
get where you're coming from,
Whether
but
that's-
all I can say is,
So
you
was
know,
Yeah.
Raider, so was Red Raider Run.
Well, yeah, well, that,
That's
like,
supposed to be
Right.
the
synchronized.
problem there is it's not synchronized.
yeah.
So, like,
Whether
who's responsible?
But I mean, what more can you say? And the TTM says that it needs to be synced, and I mean,
It does. There's a couple different ways to do that, and so I guess that's where my comment's coming from. You can have them hard connected where they're physically talking to each other, and then there are ways to sync them up time-bound where you're running them similar cycle lengths, and so they're staying in sync with each other because of that. Where I think you see some of these issues is that the signals run completely independently and actuated, and so they're not staying synced up with each other. And so
yeah.
that's the comment here, is to make sure that they're running on similar signal timings, and that was evaluated as part of the TTM.
Like, how do we guarantee that, though, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, right? Because, and my frustration is not at you, it's not at this project particularly, but we have had how many conversations for the past how many years about synchronizing,
Martha started talking about that at my first meeting.
and it's still not done.
6 years ago.
So how do we ensure this gets done, right?
So NCDOT is running some time-of-day plans at these locations, so they're not running fully independently at these locations along Wilkinson anymore. But there are other locations around town, like on South Point Road, that are running fully independent, which is, I think, where you're getting some of the frustration.
Yeah.
So who's responsible for syncing the lights? Is that an NCDOT thing?
NCDOT does periodic
Sometimes it's
updates to the
Martha.
signal timing plans, yeah. And they've been looking at updates periodically every couple of years along here as they continue to get input about the quality of travel
Right.
time.
Reagan, I have a question.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that really quick, we learned recently through our TAC meetings that it's not just Division 12 who's doing the signal synchronization, it's their Raleigh office. So they are relying on the divisions to give them feedback about which signals need updated synchronization. And so when we, I think, checked in with them about that most recently, I want to say it was November of last year, or maybe the meeting prior, that we learned that it was their Raleigh office doing those updates. We asked for them to prioritize resynchronizing South Point Road, but we learned that they hadn't done that since any of those new signals went in. So that, I think, is a situation that now that we're aware of it, staff is better equipped to advocate to make sure that those timing issues don't occur in the first place when a signal is installed. Of course, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to Division 12 in the Raleigh office to approve those signal plans, but staff's a little better educated now about what that process looks like.
Let me ask you real quick. So, going to the TAC committee meetings and hearing the plans, I know that this had been discussed before.
That's right.
Before this applicant even came
Yes.
up.
Yep.
What do you think that the chances are that even if the applicant wasn't here today, that we would be at some point in the near future looking at a light here? Does that seem like
It's
that would probably
likely.
be?
Well, the warrants
Yes.
already
Yeah.
Yes.
exist in
The
two of
warrants
the
are
three
met.
situations.
Exactly, yep, and
Even
Justin
without
can
this.
speak a little more technically to that, but essentially the demand already exists today to justify, from an engineering perspective, putting a light in there now. This project would increase that demand, but the demand already exists. And our conversations with Division 12 focused some on this intersection and the intersection of Browntown and Park, because we wanted to understand from a traffic flow, but also safety perspective, how we could improve movements at those two intersections, because Browntown is one of our most dangerous corridors, and those are two of our most dangerous intersections in the city. They told us they would be willing to allow the right-in, right-out movement at Park and Browntown, but not at both sides because of the movements going towards Charlotte, and they didn't want to completely remove the ability for those residents who've lived back there for decades to be able to get out onto Wilkinson.
I have some questions for you. And they're really more, they're sort of based on the TTM, but more of the effects and consequences of what's in the TTM, so I think you'd be the best person to speak to them.
Sure.
I'll
I'll delegate if needed.
Yes.
Sure.
So we've talked about going all the way back, and this was even before I was on council, with this westbound right turn from Wilkinson on to Browntown, and that was required for the Morris, now the Reverie, and they've made a payment in lieu, so there's money, bonded, or you referred to it.
Sure.
And they're going to construct this turn lane as part of their mitigation. My question would be, what happens if it turns out that the costs to construct the turn lane are more than the money that's in there for the payment in lieu?
Sure. Our advice and guidance to the applicant has been that we would prefer to see them take on that additional burden. If it does run over, I would prefer to let the applicant speak to their willingness to do that, but that's what staff has advised, is that they take on any additional cost. My understanding, based on the estimate, is that, so our policy with those payments in lieu, so that you build in, I believe the estimate is at 125% of what the cost is estimated to be. So you build in some room for contingency with the initial payment in lieu to begin with. So staff is hopeful that it
'Cause you
will
know,
cover the full cost.
Yes, the prices
Right.
have somewhat increased since 2019, I think
sure.
was when that.
Well, and I can't speak to, I think, Tiffany, do you know exactly when the payment was bonded? I believe it was more recent than 2019.
Oh, yes.
Sure. So that was a requirement of wrapping up some of our permitting and construction of our certificates of occupancy. So that bond is less than a year old to date.
Okay.
So it should not be severely outdated, but we understand the price of construction continues to fluctuate. So
As my wife reminds me.
absolutely. And material costs as well as engineering costs, but it was enough to be based off of an initial engineering design and cost estimate and was vetted by our city engineer at the time of acceptance. So we are hopeful, but again have been in conversations, and we will let the developer speak for themselves, but it is our understanding that they are agreeable to meeting us there if this project is approved and being able to help us get that one successfully off of our to-do list.
How much money is available for that?
I believe that bond was around $359,000.
Okay.
And one last question for either Reagan or yourself. And I think to some extent, the applicant will have to answer with respect to some of this. But at the planning and zoning meeting, there is a lot of discussion amongst the board about the site distances and these two fence obstructions, one being on Wilkinson, one being on Browntown Road. And those fences are not on the applicant's property, and so they were going to reach out to the property owners, and I can let them speak to whether they did so and what fruit any of those discussions bore. But where I'm a little concerned, though, is they have said that, or the conditions for this project, that, you know, it's a conditional zoning, so this would be what we approve. It says, the applicant agrees to installing, constructing all mitigations identified through the TTM. And these are mitigations that are identified in the TTM, but they're also mitigations that they don't have full control over. So where does that leave everyone if the owners of these fences do not agree to remove the portions that are obstructing the site distances?
Sure.
What does that do for everything?
Sure, absolutely. So, to cut right to the chase, this was the fence that prompted a lot of the discussion at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. And the applicant can speak more to this once he comes up, but our understanding is he reached out to the owner of this property with the fence and showed the map of where they would be required to move the fence, and the owner was agreeable to that. In general, if that's the language that remains in the conditional zoning and the property owners say, no, we don't want you to do that thing on our property, then typically they would have to come back to you all for an amendment of that conditional
Now,
zoning.
that's in the right-of-way.
Right.
It
that
is in the
fence.
right-of-way. So for this one in
Yes.
particular, there's no guarantee that NCDOT would not come in and ask them to move the fence themselves at a later date.
All right, well,
But,
I'm just,
yes.
because I know that was a subject of a lot of discussion, and they weren't, they're like, oh, we'll leave it to, you know, council, we'll,
Sure.
because, you know, I don't think they really felt it was their place to decide that
Sure.
question, and I'm just trying to figure out where that would leave us,
Yeah.
because it's hard to commit, you know, when I teach my contracts drafting course, you know, don't commit to a condition that you don't have
That you
full
can't
control
enforce.
over.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but we shall see what the applicant says, but I just wanted to know more from a holistic perspective, regardless of the facts on the ground, what would happen if they couldn't.
Absolutely.
So basically, there might need to be.
They might have to come back
Okay.
to you all for an amendment. I will say that's standard language that we incorporate into our conditions when a traffic study is done that requires mitigations. But there have been cases in the past where a mitigation can't be completed, and then the applicant
You need right of
might-
way or something.
yeah, and the applicant might come back to you all seeking approval to provide a payment in lieu instead of actually doing that improvement. So there's precedent for it before where projects have been able to move forward regardless.
I have a non-transportation question, but Tiffany's already up here, so
Sure.
I'll save you a trip. And it's okay if you don't know the answer to this, but I'm just wondering, so we've got the 2-acre minimum for
Yes.
automotive services. Do we know, like, what the purpose is behind that minimum?
I was not here when that was added to the code, so I cannot speak explicitly. My best guess would be to the highway corridor overlay was to try to provide some guidance around the aesthetics of the corridor as you're driving along it. So it was likely to make it a bit more selective for the location of automotive services. But just to make sure that we're clear, automotive services is a very wide category. It could include everything from a car dealership to a service shop to a gas station. So it could be anything. It could have automotive vehicles stored outside, or like this gas station, they're not proposing to actually have a parking lot full of vehicles on there full time. That category also includes boat repair, boat storage, motorcycle, like it's a wide gamut. So my guess would be something related to trying to minimize a whole bunch of inventory on a smaller, more congested site and ensuring that there was enough space for adequate screening. But I wasn't here when that was added to the code.
Okay. I'm good. Any other questions for staff?
Well,
So
you're going to wrap up.
We'll
on-
have Michael come back up
yes,
to close us out.
Yes.
All right, so some additional commitments to go over. In addition to agreeing upon the traffic mitigations and improvements, the applicant has also agreed to the following commitments. They committed to install a fence around the stormwater basin if it's needed. Staff suggested a black aluminum, which the applicant agreed to. They agreed to install a license plate reader on the site in coordination with Belmont PD, and to implement a storm scepter in the stormwater design to safeguard the protected watershed area. We had a couple neighborhood meetings, both at the East Belmont Baptist Church, which is located at 501 East Catawba Street. The first neighborhood meeting was on January 6th of this year, which 6 attendees featuring surrounding neighbors, council members, city staff, and the mayor, Jordan. Questions and concerns that were raised were about traffic, the planned turning lane, relief items, and other site and or business specific questions. We also held a second neighborhood meeting on March 25th of 2026, which no attendees came to the meeting. So to go over the applicant relief request, the lot size, which was the 2-acre minimum, is requested as a relief as it's located within the HCO. Buffer reduction from the 30 feet type A buffer between HC and residential down to 15 feet. For architectural design, they want to be allowed to use hardy board rather than the allowable materials that are outlined within our LDC. And for parking location is to allow the parking in the Browntown front yard. Some additional relief that were per the city engineer and staff would be the street trees. To remove the street trees between the curb and sidewalk along Wilkinson to avoid existing sanitary sewer line, and also to shift the street trees along Browntown Road from the curb and sidewalk to the opposite side of the sidewalk to avoid the existing storm drain. We held the Planning and Zoning Board meeting on April 16th, and the Belmont Planning and Zoning Board reviewed the map amendment and voted unanimously, which is 7-0, to find it to be a reasonable request and in the public's best interests and consistent with Belmont's comprehensive land use plan in the following goals: land use and economy. And in addition, the planning board was of the opinion that the proposed project is consistent with the vision outlined within the Wilkinson Boulevard Small Area Plan. So after the meeting is wrapped up, we are looking for you to receive the report and the planning board recommendation, plus public comments if there are any, and then issue a motion to approve as presented, approve as modified, or disapprove. And then 2 findings would be required, which would be the map amendment is reasonable request and in the public interest, and the map amendment is consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan in the areas of land use and economy. So that was all that I had from my presentation.
I have a couple. I don't want Tiffany and Reagan to get all the questions. You need a couple just for experience.
Yeah, of course.
Get it under your wing. You mentioned there are some power lines in the front of the property along the Wilkinson frontage. Are they going to need to be relocated?
They would need to be relocated. Yeah.
And the applicant, I would assume, is going to bear that cost. Or
would that be the applicant or yeah, I think it's the applicant.
okay. Very good. The only other thing, I think you mentioned that there's gonna be a fence along in the back as part of the buffer, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
How high will the fence be?
I believe it's a 8 foot? 6 foot? 6 foot.
And then, of course, but there's a slope down
a
from,
slope, yeah.
from the neighboring property. The only thing I would say, that fence is sort of, it's sort of mentioned in the report, but it's not really, if they're going to commit to that, I think it should be in the conditions, and it's not in the conditions. So I would say that in addition to the, assuming we're agreeable, and we can discuss this at the appropriate time, with reducing the buffer from 30 to 15 feet, I would put in the conditions as well, the construction of the 6-foot fence to screen.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody is agreeable to that, yeah, we can definitely add that as a condition.
It doesn't sound like the property owner behind, where we're looking at reducing that buffer from 30 to 15, property owner behind it, and they come to any of the, I know they didn't come to the second community meeting because no one came, but the first one, do we know if they showed up to that and had any issues with reducing the buffer?
I'm not sure, do you know if it was one of the, I was sick during the first meeting, so I had a substitute come in, so I'm not sure if it was the direct neighbor that was right there.
I'm not sure about if they attended the community meeting or not. I can tell you that I've had some exploratory interest in that property. So from my conversations, I don't see that there would be any conflict from that property owner.
Just one more thing. I believe it was also the technical review committee. This was brought before the technical review committee, which consists of various department heads. Is that correct? And they found no public safety concerns with this proposed amendment.
No, no public safety concerns. The only thing that PD had requested was that license plate reader. Outside of that, there was no comments. Any more questions?
Any other questions for staff? No, we might have some questions for the applicant. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, of course. And then the applicant representation today is Wes Binford.
Good evening, council members, mayor.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
There you go.
All right, perfect. I'm going to read this quick little monologue real quick, and then I'll answer some of the questions, and we'll just go through the slides. Quality Oil Company was established in 1929, so we're approaching our 100-year anniversary. Over that time, we've grown significantly. We operate reliable tank lines, which many people may recognize traveling along I-85. We run convenience stores under the brand Quality Mart and Quality Plus, provide propane and heating oil services, and have expanded into hotels and other real estate ventures. And 95% of our assets are located in North Carolina. Quality Oil has not served the city of Belmont or Gaston County in the past. We're excited to enter this market to serve the residents of this community while aiding in the revitalization of the Wilkinson Boulevard corridor in Belmont. When we identified this site in Belmont, we saw a meaningful opportunity to provide needed services to this part of town and believe this location is well positioned to support residents, employees, and visitors who travel this corridor daily. About a year ago, Pat Frazier, the landowner, West Hunter of Hunter Properties, Pat's representation, and I began discussing this property as a potential home for our Quality Plus model. West and Pat mentioned that they had the property listed for years and had difficulty finding the right user due to the characteristics of the site being too narrow for most users, which has left the site unfortunately vacant for many years. Fortunately, this property suits this design very well, and since it typically fits on roughly an acre, I believe this type of small infill development offered by this design accomplishes more with less and promotes regeneration of this corridor while improving aesthetics. The design is modern, attractive, and tailored to today's customers' expectations. We've met the neighbors, the mayor, and several council members at the neighborhood meetings. We have met and discussed this project in depth with staff and have listened closely to the feedback we've received. The plan you'll see tonight reflects that input, and it has evolved significantly. We're proud of the outcome and believe it'll be a strong, positive addition to the community. There's the three brands that Quality Oil operates convenience stores under: Quality Mart, which is the full-size convenience store. Go Gas and Quality Plus. Go Gas and Quality Plus are they're the exact same model. They're just different brandings for Go Gas is the coastal market. We brand that one as that, and Quality Plus is everything west of Raleigh. There's all 153 locations. The blue is the Quality Mart. The yellow is the Quality Plus, which is what we're proposing here in Belmont. And the green is the Go Gas brand. So you can see it's pretty spread out. It's all across the state, South Carolina, a couple in Tennessee, a couple in Virginia, but the majority here in North Carolina. The site overview, Michael did a good job of going over that. I'm sure you all are very familiar with this corridor and corner. There's some current pictures of what it looks like right now. And the current site plan. With that, I'll answer some of the questions that were brought up. Yes, the bond, I have not seen the exact documentation for the bond, but have been told that it's roughly $360,000. And yes, we will we'll cover any overtures for that. We're not going to expect the city to pay for any more of that. The fence removal, yes. Topic of conversation for planning board last month. That, I reached out to the property owner of TRC Automotive, Mr. McGinty, and spoke with him actually on last Friday. Verbally, he has agreed to move that section of fence that needs to be moved to create that sight line. The other fence that's along Wilkinson there, that's actually on our property, so we'll remove that, make that real easy. But like you said, it's difficult to, I mean, verbally, yes, he could change his mind at any time, and we'll have to see how that works out. Hope we don't have to come back, but.
Well, that's in the right of way, so that makes it easier.
That is true.
Because at the planning board meeting, it was presented more like that other fence was like shared between your property and the adjacent, but if it's all on your property, that's easy.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Good.
Oh yes, the 2 acre minimum, yes, Tiffany answered that. The utility relocation, yes, that'll be our responsibility. And the 6-foot fence, that's gonna be a 6-foot wooden fence. And there was mention of the property owner that is behind. Yes, Mr. Pearson did come to the first neighborhood meeting. I don't remember him specifically asking a question about the buffer size, but he did ask questions about the fence and how tall it was going to be. And I'll come over there. I mean, you'll see in the contour lines that's there on the back of the property, it is like a 20-foot grade between where that vending canopy is. Does this thing have a laser on it? Nope. Yeah, it does. Well, anyways, where that structure in the back is, the vending canopy that's there behind the underground storage tanks, yes, from that grade up to his property, I believe it's roughly 18, 20 feet of elevation difference. The proposed elevations, this is the typical building. If we go back a couple slides, you'll see the Go Gas and the Quality Plus, they all have the same type of building. It's roughly, this one will be a little bit bigger than those. Typically they're 600 square feet. This one will be 685 square feet. It's a pretty attractive building.
So is that like a walk-up or drive-up window, or how does it work?
Both. So in this, we'll just pretend somebody's coming off of Wilkinson. They'll enter the driveway and they'll go to the pumps, or they can come straight to the pay window, either or. People can actually still pump their gas first before paying. I know a lot of gas stations do not do that anymore. Yeah, well, it is bold. Yes, it is. There are people that run off.
Well, you
Usually,
have that nice police.
Yeah,
tape,
I was about to say,
Yeah.
you have that.
that's right. We got that. So protect us a little bit. But yeah, so people will they'll come to the pumps or they'll go to the pay window. Once they're done fueling, they'll drive up. There'll be a pay window attendant in there. They can buy drinks, snacks, cigarettes, or not coffee, ice cream, those kind of items, sun dries. They can also, park their car, and if they don't want to go to the pay window, they can go to the vending machine area in the back. So there's a vending machine canopy, and there's just the typical drinks, sodas, sports drinks, what have you. So there's an opportunity for those folks not to go up to the window. And then they simply exit the site.
Is this a 24/7 operation?
No, sir. This will be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
But you can get gas 24/7 at
Correct.
pumps.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
so it's only staffed from 6 to 10.
Correct.
Okay.
The building will only be open from that 6 to 10.
Okay.
And you can't get into the building. You can use the restrooms, but I could walk up to the
Yes.
window, even though it's a drive, I could walk up there, but I
Yes.
couldn't walk in to the building other than
Correct.
using the restroom.
Yes, sir.
But you could buy a soda at the vending aisle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and typically people will, with the restroom, they'll usually pull around to the parking spaces. There's not usually too many people parked because they're usually parked at the pumps. So they just conveniently drive over there, get out, use the restroom, and go on their way. It's a pretty straightforward flow-through design.
With that being said, it's not one way at the cutouts, right? You can come in or go at either cutout.
Yes, sir.
But the one on Wilkinson's right in, right out. only.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a full access, but, yeah, unless you want to drive over the median, they'll just be turned right.
I've seen it happen.
I'm sure.
I have seen it happen.
And I remember there was mention before of, at the neighborhood meeting, people cutting through this site as it is now, to get on Browntown, and people will speed through that. Obviously, with things in the way now and fuel dispensers and cars parked at the pumps, that will eliminate that concern.
Very good. Any questions for the applicant? No
I'm
questions?
assuming you're fine then if we add the 6-foot wooden fence to the actual conditions since they're committing to
Yes,
build it
sir.
anyway?
That's fine.
That's a privacy fence, right?
Correct.
Jim, should we, since you're up here, should we also potentially add that any overage outside of the bond would be covered by the applicant? Just to put that in writing for the condition? Is that necessary, Parks?
Either that or he agrees to absorb the full cost.
So verbal agreement would be,
No, I think it would be.
okay, so we'd add that in the condition, which you would be okay to that?
Yes, sir.
As you've already stated, thank you.
No other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, well, if we have no other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to come out of public hearing.
Just one more, I'm sorry,
Sure.
for Reagan maybe and Tiffany. This whole light synchronization is the only thing that I'm just kind of caught up on. How can we absolutely ensure that that's going to happen, right?
Sure.
And the only reason why I bring this, I mean, we all know, I mean, I drove this, I think you probably drove this on the way home this afternoon. This place is terrible, right? And what I don't want to do is add
Yeah.
to that. I want to fix the safety issue, which has already been identified, but like, are we fixing one problem to cause another,
And causing a new one.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this I think is top of mind, not just for us, but also for NCDOT as they think about potentially adding, like you said, a light onto a major arterial like Wilkinson, very close to this major intersection of Wilkinson and Park. What staff is able to do is give feedback to the developer as they're working with their consultant on the traffic signal design and emphasize the importance of that signal timing, and then we'll be involved with NCDOT in Division 12 as they give feedback on the signal plan. So if NCDOT were to come back, I think it's very unlikely that NCDOT were to come back and say, we want these to be completely independent signals. But if they were to give some sort of feedback like that, we'd have opportunities along the way to counter that
Okay.
and to give that feedback to the division directly.
So that's not something that we would have to put like potentially as a contingency within this?
I wouldn't recommend it because we don't necessarily have the ability to enforce it since it's not our
Sure.
road. But I will note, staff is as concerned about that as you all, and we want to make sure that if there is a light put in, whether through this project or in general by the division in the future, we want to make sure that it's not causing more problems than it's solving.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good? Yeah, you look like you're itching to say something.
The only thing I was going to add, and I think it, from my perspective, isn't necessarily something that would be added to the conditions, but certainly it's at your discretion as council. Is my understanding that the applicant has actually agreed to use Kittleson and Associates to actually design that signal if this project does move forward, which, as a reminder, it's the city who enters the contract with the TIA consultant to do that. That's something there. So in theory, they could actually use anyone or try to do it outside of that purview, but it's my understanding that the applicant plans to continue with the team there at Kittleson to be able to design it in the way that was intended by the traffic study itself. Yep, that was it.
Thank you. All right, does that trigger any other questions for anyone? Speak now.
Is this a four-way stop at the stoplight that we're proposing?
Yeah, I think it would be. 'Cause
Essentially,
essentially,
yeah.
I mean,
but
yeah,
Napa,
The
technically,
fourth
but-
So coming out
approach
of,
is the
that
Napa
highway,
Yeah.
driveway,
Yeah.
so
Right.
minimal,
Okay.
but not,
Alright.
yeah.
Crosswalk?
all right, well, then I'll
No?
entertain, no, I'll take the crosswalk.
Mhm.
Motion to come out of public hearing?
Motion to come out of public hearing.
Motion made by Alex,
Second.
second by Mark, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we are out of public hearing, and that officially moves us to agenda item C5, consider ordinance for approval of ZA 2026.01, zoning map amendment for Quality Plus. So open for discussions.
Well, it seems like, Alex, I guess I'll just ask you, are you fine with the issues with the traffic signalization? Because it sounds like that might be the only potential sticking point.
That's the only
here.
sticking point for me.
Yeah.
I mean, to Reagan's point, it's not, we can't make it contingent on that happening. I would anticipate that would, considering, but then again, I would have anticipated that on South Point Road, and we didn't get that,
Mhm.
right? So that's the only piece that kind of holds me up. I don't know about you guys, if that also crossed y'all's.
Well, I get it, because, but I don't know what more, I mean, there's
That they
a.
could do is the
Yeah,
applicant.
there's just a like generally you have to assume, that the state's going to comply with the law. Like
Huh.
that's sort of like a maxim that like you're going to assume compliance with the statute. You're going to assume that they proceed as they're supposed to. So I don't know what else you could really, I hear you, because I know the same thing down on South Point Road has happened, and it is a source of, has been a source of continued frustration for those of us that have been here longer. It has, been a continuing discussion.
Yeah.
To the extent that people were going there and trying to change the signalization themselves, I think, at certain points.
Councilwoman
Well,
Stowe.
It sounds to me like regardless of the applicant, that we might be looking at getting a signal there at some point.
And that is a good
Yeah.
point.
We're probably one accident away or one request away from it happening.
Well, it's
regardless.
already
Yeah,
warranted
it's already
by
one
two
of
of the
the-
three,
Yeah.
you know.
And the additional turn lane should be an improvement, which was already
Mhm.
identified during the Morris, right?
Which predates even Mark and myself.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe I would just ask that, and I know you guys probably would, but for my level of comfortability, that staff follow up with NCDOT, and that maybe at a later date at the workshop or whenever you guys can have that conversation, come back to council to let them know how that conversation went.
We
I just-
talked about it in
or-
the last
yeah, or
couple
TAC.
TAC
Or
meetings,
TAC, either
so,
one would be
yeah.
fine,
I
just as
forget
long
when
as
the next
we're,
one is.
the update comes back to the collective body. Because
Yeah.
that's the only piece that I just, that's a disaster on that road.
I agree. Well, I'll entertain motions.
I would move to approve as amended with the additional conditions of the 6-foot wooden fence as part of the rear buffer and the applicant agreeing to assume the additional expense of constructing the westbound right turn lane off of Wilkinson, if any, should those costs exceed the amount of payment in lieu from Reverie / Morris.
All right, motion made by Jim,
Second.
second by Charlie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes, and I think now we need to do a motion for findings.
Yes, I would move that the amendment is a reasonable request and in the public interest and consistent with the goals of the comprehensive land use plan in the areas of land use and economy, and also consistent with the Wilkinson Boulevard small area plan.
Motion made by Jim,
Second.
second by Alex, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, finding is, passes, so congratulations.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
We look forward to seeing your
Welcome to
gas
Belmont.
station.
Yes, welcome to
Welcome to
Belmont.
Gaston County in Belmont.
And thank you for your process. You hit everything that was requested, so thank you for that. Yeah. All right, well, moving right along, I think that will take us to other business. Any other business tonight? I know we have a closed session coming up, but we'll go ahead and do other business. So Alex?
Yeah, maybe just a few here. Miles, maybe just for the collective body here, and then maybe for our listeners and folks here, maybe just a quick update on the drought. So we just entered into the stage 2 piece, which I know that there's some restrictions and a $500 penalty, but where are we right now as it pertains to our water intake off the Catawba River? Are we in an okay position, or are we getting into a concerning position where we may need to rely on our interlocal connections?
Well, the river's very low. We know we have an issue with the intake. And we really don't want to, we have our 2 municipalities that that could serve us if we get in a dire situation to go to that route. But we're looking at another option before we go there. If we got into the situation we couldn't draw water into our own intake, possibly with a floating pump. I believe that's what Jonathan Wilson, our Public Works Director, and the Water Treatment Plant Superintendent were looking at today, was to get a quote to see if we got to that point. I don't know if we will or not. We've also had conversations with Duke Energy on the current level and how much further it would go down if we didn't get any significant rain.
Has Duke given any insight? Because I think I saw something where their reservoir is, 75% or below the threshold, so they're probably not going to release more water down to us, or did they give any indicator?
I don't have any update on that
Okay.
at all. We could check to see. I know that our public works staff is in communications with Duke Energy, and I can give you an update once we get the final reports on that. Yeah, as a worst case scenario emergency method, if we had to do something, possibly float something out to the center of the channel to draw water.
But I guess right now, other than the stage 2, there's no immediate concern right now, other than just probably preparation of.
Yeah, not right now.
Okay.
No, I think we're good right now.
Does the lower water affect, like, I know we have this continuing issue with, like, particulates in the water and this.
Turbidity.
Right. Does it affect, like, the amount of, I think it's the alum we use to treat it?
I couldn't speak to that. I don't know if Jonathan is appropriate person or if our water plant superintendent is, but maybe Jonathan could come to the mic and speak to that. It's more technical in nature than I'm willing to.
You seen brown water?
Well, no, I mean, well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, pretty much.
Could you repeat that question?
Yeah, so my question is around, like, the amount of chemicals we need to treat the water. Like, when it gets all churned up, there's a lot of mud in it.
Mhm.
You need to throw more of the chemical in it to settle out the mud. With the lake being lower, is there like a similar sort of?
I think the
No,
problem
that
is that the
would-
water's not getting
Yeah,
churned up,
yeah.
because we need water to come down.
It's kind of a blessing and a curse. Our staff is very familiar with treating water with high turbidity, being on the lake or being on the river. instead of the lake. So we haven't seen any issues so far. We typically see higher turbidity during flooding events, not during drought, but it is
Okay.
something we're monitoring.
And this might be more towards Miles, but, so I get what we as residents and say businesses have to do under these stage 2 conditions. I'm a little curious what, in terms of what the city does with its use of water, what is the city, because that's been raised in a couple of instances, what is the city required to do? Is the city subject to all these requirements? Or are they exempted from certain of the requirements?
As far as like what particular topic are you talking about?
I mean, just in general, is there anything like, in terms of like, say, watering fields or watering lawns?
No, yeah, we would abide by our own restrictions. I don't
Okay.
think we should go above and beyond, even if we are exempt. I mean, that shows that we're doing the right thing. It is important, you see the river how low, you know where our intake is, and so that we're doing the same things that we're asking citizens to do. If we're not, I think we should be, and I'd like to know if we're not doing that. Yep,
Okay.
so I'm sure that we are,
Okay.
you know, not watering our nice fields that are nice and green this spring. You know, we're cutting back on those things. The flowers that we planted downtown within the last 2 weeks, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I mean, all impacts of you know everything. So yeah, we're trying to do the best thing we possibly can do as well.
Well, it's supposed to rain Thursday.
Yeah.
I hope it rains a lot.
Well, we need more, you need rain further up the river.
Yeah.
Did anyone else have any questions on that before I have 2 more things,
No,
Mayor?
go for it.
So the, thank you, John, yard waste program. So we rolled out the bins that residents could potentially purchase to collect yard waste. Has there been any feedback or any type of communications? in
Yes,
regards to
we
that?
sent out the yard waste communications, and since then we've had a pretty positive response. I think we've had plus 80 purchases of somewhere
Good.
around there. Like since we did the push on social media and getting the word out, we've had a lot of folks that have signed up. So much so that we need to buy more cans. You know,
Nice.
initially we had the budget amendment to buy X number of cans. We didn't know. We didn't want to like buy them all at once, not knowing how this program may go. So we only bought, I think, 100 to begin with. And so we're approaching that limit now where we're thinking, hey, we probably need to buy some more because it takes time to get them in and everything. So,
Kind of good direction
yeah,
there.
it's good.
Good job, guys.
Yep.
And then last thing, maybe a direction to staff if I can get 2 other council members. But I'd be interested in the valuation of the properties that we're leasing from Belmont Land Investment Company. So essentially, Charlie, before, when we were talking about the budgets, essentially Belmont Land Investment has come back to us with an increase in lease rates for parking lots in Frady Field. I'd be curious to what the valuation of these individual parcels and properties would be that we're leasing, or at least a piece of it. If 2 other council members agree.
That'd be okay. I mean,
Yeah,
it'd be in
that
our best interest to at least
makes
know
sense.
that.
Are you talking about property appraisal?
Yeah.
Yep, so just more information before we give the presentation in a couple weeks, but the company hired a third-party appraiser to do that. So we already have 3 appraisals of those properties. It was Integra Realty Resources, IRR, which is a pretty big firm, and so even though the company hired them, you know, they have their requirements where they do that professionally to lay out what property values are. So I don't want the city to go down the path of spending a lot of money on property appraisals when we already have 3 in hand from the company.
Okay,
And so
no,
I hadn't shared
are
that yet.
those, would those be, see, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Would those be accepted to us? Let's say, in an instance, if the city decided to purchase one of those properties, we would accept one of those property evaluations? Not saying that that would happen, but.
I don't know if they go into the depth of, I think they do, it goes to like the land value based on what it was zoned as, and that's how they break down how much the lease rates are based on the value of the property. And so, yeah, you could deduce that
When were
property is
they-
worth something.
When were they performed?
They were performed in January, I believe. The company came, yeah,
Mhm.
this year, yeah, so they're really
Is
good
that
with
something we could see before we
Yeah.
discuss? And
us.
And then could we also just, might be a plug, I know it's readily available, but just see what the taxable value on those pieces of property are too.
Mhm.
Thank you.
all right, Charlie?
Yeah, I can get the, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I can get the appraisals to you all. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Charlie?
Nothing from me.
Nothing? All right. Mark?
Actually, a question on the budget. Is this gonna be available online at some point, if it's not already?
It's not. It's available in the city clerk's office, so if anybody wants to see that, we didn't plan to put it online until we adopt it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess my feeling is that I don't see any harm with putting it online. I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels, but
So how would someone go about getting it right now?
You'd have to
Email
make
Laura?
it, yeah, make an appointment, call Laura, email Laura, and then they can come and view it here. If we put it online, it would be that we would just scan it in and make it available like as just a document, a PDF document. Well, we could do that. We've never done that. I don't think we've
Subject to
done
the
that.
revisions.
What's that?
Subject to revisions,
Yeah,
if any.
Yep, because it's balanced right now, but like I say, we've got a couple items that we need to adjust inside of it. But
yeah. I mean, I'd be fine with that, just because I feel like it makes it a little bit easier. Not that like you're intimidating or anything, but yeah, just I mean, that's how I would prefer to consume it anyway. I mean, but just as Joe citizen. One update: I had the opportunity to go visit with the Belmont Community Organization downtown. Got the nickel tour of their facility down there, which if you haven't done that, they expressed an interest in kind of having a little bit more, I guess, partnership with the city, however that's defined, going forward. They do quite a lot down there with actually not a whole lot of resources. So, they've got a food bank, they've got a clothing store, all kinds of other things down there to help the people of this community. And the nice thing is everything that goes in there actually stays local. So they've got a nice little operation going on down there. So if anybody wants to, get the nickel tour, let me know and I can hook you up with my contact over there. And you can meet their new director. She happened to be in while I already knew her, but I didn't realize she was the new director. But great people down there. So yeah. And that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Mark. Jim?
Oh, I hope I'm not opening a can of worms, but, there were some people upset by this, so perhaps we could, it does warrant a discussion, even though perhaps it's faded into memory with the span of a couple weeks, but the discharge of the firearm outside of the gun shop was upsetting, and perhaps we can get an update, because it does seem to me that it's not entirely unlikely that this might be something that could happen. I mean, or happen again. And so I'd just be interested in finding out some more information and discussing this, because I'd rather discuss it at this point than discuss it after something more tragic happens.
Are you wanting to discuss it like a council meeting, or do you want to discuss it now? I could call police chief up to discuss it now if you'd like
I
to do that.
mean, maybe is there anything that we can do?
Chief, you want to come on up?
Yeah.
Like, Jim, are you talking about potentially hold, like, the owners of that
Well,
place responsible?
It's my understanding
Well-
that it happened on the way in, correct?
Mhm.
Or discharging a firearm within city limits is already illegal, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he
Yeah,
got
but I think-
ticketed for that, but
Put words in your mouth, but would it have happened if the gun store was not there, right?
Well,
It's also a lot of people can still carrying around.
yes.
Yeah.
And so
But
it's not- it's not
let's
just-
see what Chief
Yeah.
has to say, and then I don't want to.
Chief, what you
You know.
think?
I was enjoying the conversation.
I was not, so that's why.
All right, so
I could go on all night.
So this happened on April 21st at approximately 5:44 p.m., where a gentleman was entering the store with his gun to have a part changed. And as he entered the store, as he was entering the store, he racked the gun to try to clear the gun, but there's obviously a bullet in the chamber, and the gun went off. It was not something pleasant at all. When the officers got there, the gentleman had dropped the gun off and left, but during the investigation, they called him back and spoke to the owner of the gun store. And an investigation was done. They did find the damage on the concrete outside, just outside of the door. They
Hold on.
documented everything.
Let me just understand this. He fired a shot on the side of the road in the concrete,
He was trying to clear
dropped
As-
his,
the weapon.
no,
as
no,
he was
understood,
entering the-
dropped
as
his
he was
weapon
entering the
off,
door.
and then left. Did not stay on the scene for police to arrive.
That'd be correct. So this right here was really just a failure of firearm safety and fundamentals of firearms by a person who's bringing the gun to the store. We investigated this, and because of it was an accidental discharge, we call them ADs. Because it was accidental and there's no criminal intent, it would not be a criminal charge because there's no intent. And so I Googled intent just so I could go into a little more detail of understanding of North Carolina law. What is intent in North Carolina criminal law? Intent refers to a person's state of mind when committing a crime. And it says that every criminal offense requires some level of intent, even if it's only minimal. In simple terms, the answer to this question is, did you mean to do what happened? And he obviously did not. There was a thorough investigation done. It was something that I wish didn't happen. I can't stand before you and tell you it's not going to happen again, but I hope it don't. It just really was a lack of basic gun fundamentals. It happens in our world sometimes, unfortunately, and we're experts. So,
Quick question, does that gun store service weapons?
That's what it sounds like.
I thought, it was my understanding they just sold new weapons.
they sell new weapons. They also do consignment there. As far as anything else that has to do with that, I'm not really sure. As far as the uses, I think I'd refer to Tiffany on that. As far as what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do, I don't know
I
that.
thought if they sold or did anything other than selling new weapons, that would make them a pawn shop.
You would have to ask Tiffany about that. I don't know the actual in-depth stuff about what they can and can't do. I'll stand by.
They're doing consignment.
Consignment is in fact not permitted at that location. That's the first time planning staff's been made aware of that. They are permitted for retail, and just like any other retail, right, if you bring something back to a store and you need service on that thing, you can do general standard business. It is an item of retail, right, so if that's part of what is being sold, that's fine. But consignment is restricted to the Wilkinson Boulevard corridor, and we have issued a zoning verification letter that was clear that that was the case. So
how
if
do
that
we
is being
follow?
done, we can investigate that further.
Can we do that?
Yes, we will.
Sounds like we need to.
Yeah,
And
so
if I bring a firearm in there that I didn't purchase in that store, how's that? Like if I wanted it serviced in there, is that part of the retail?
So it's, yeah, our code is really, really broad on retail. I will have to look and see if service, it doesn't get into like even specifically like what types of things can be sold unless it's specifically listed somewhere else. Our code is really broad right now. So I will have to look at if there's service-oriented businesses that are allowed downtown, but there are other service-oriented businesses downtown. They just might not be of the gun servicing persuasion. So our code and the land development code doesn't really get that specific. If they are legal activities, legal things that can be sold, and it's not otherwise specifically excluded, it's allowed. Just like they have a training room that would be for like educational type purposes, that's allowed even though it's not retail. It's a complementary type of activity on the same site. But in terms of the consignment, that was communicated to the owner that that was not allowed at that location. It's my understanding that the business operates more than one location. And so even if the business operated consignment at other locations. It's just not permitted in our downtown area. So we can follow up on that. You know, one of the things I will be really clear on is with enforcement of things. We primarily handle land use. So anything beyond land use specifically gets deferred to our police department for that enforcement. And when we talk about specifically what's being bought and sold there, that's different than what is actually, the land is actually being used for, right? So we can say, well, you know, we have heard that it's consignment. I'm gonna need to have some documentation before I can pursue that further. But I can coordinate with the police department to do that.
Can we not just walk in and see if they're selling consigned guns
Sure,
or
that's
not?
what I mean in terms of documentation, right? So,
Okay.
so we can do that.
Just
That's
trying
just the
to-
first I've heard of it, so I will need to go through our process for that, but absolutely.
Let me ask you this, would selling used items, is that considered consignment, or is it selling on behalf of someone else consignment?
They're not
Because there's a
supposed to be
difference there, because they are selling
They shouldn't
used.
be selling
I know they sell used, but they're selling used. I don't know that they're selling it on behalf of someone else.
So we would look up the definition in our land development code, which
Okay.
is not handy with me right now on that. Pawn and consignment is specifically what's listed as only allowed on Wilkinson Boulevard corridor. So if they're doing those two things, then that would be not what's allowable in that area. But retail alone, and I'm not clear, but it could be that used is still contained, just like a used clothing store
How
might
do
still
you-
be okay, but
I was-
consignment where you're giving a portion of the profit to the original owner
I was
may be
told that they
different.
were only allowed to sell new firearms.
I'm not sure. There's a zoning verification letter where we gave clear instructions about what is and isn't allowed at that site,
Okay.
prior to them moving in, but
Sounds like something we need to follow up on.
yeah, and normally,
See
like
what's
within downtown,
happening.
anybody's allowed to do anything that's allowable within downtown. They just need to process a change of use permit with us so they understand what the limitations of that use are.
And you've already sent that to them, requesting clarification?
I have not, no, this is
okay.
the first I've heard that there was anything other than the permitted retail use at that property. But on that side, based on what Chief just said, the actual action likely occurred in our right-of-way, not on that premises. So any other claims about what they're doing in the property itself would be what planning and zoning would
Okay.
be looking into.
I mean, because I will, you know, I understand it was an accident, but, you know, it seems as though this is the kind of thing, it's not, you know, this was not entirely unpredictable that an accident like this
Yeah.
could and can happen, so.
I would say that if it's a continuous thing that happens over a period of time, we would probably start to look at nuisance abatement
Yeah.
stuff versus any kind of criminal thing, because you do have to have intent. There was something else I had, but I lost it. I don't know where, along the way up here.
How long, when did they first open? How long have they been open?
Less than
A year? Yeah, somewhere right.
So they're less than a year, and this is our first one in this instance. So when, Chief, would you anticipate we start looking at the nuisance abatement? Because that's a pretty quick turnaround since they've opened that we're already seeing this. The only reason why I ask is Charlie brought this to light. There's obviously a dance studio next door. There's churches next door. There's people who walk and are about. Accidents do happen. Luckily, this one shot into the ground, but what if it didn't happen that way?
I agree completely. I would say, based on the other things I'm involved with nuisance abatement, not just here, but in my career, that this is a one-off versus things that would actually meet the criteria for nuisance abatement. It would have to be multiple things. It wouldn't just be a one-off like this, so I don't know if there's a timeline, but I would say it's based on the incidents. And I can tell you that there was many more incidents involving another property that we're involved with still currently, locally.
But there's no like set number of incidents,
Uh,
or is it just?
It
kinda
just really
judgment?
is based off of the egregiousness and stuff like that, what it is. And there's some very egregious things that we've looked into. That's all I'll say about that. I do think, I'm not sure what was agreed to in the beginning, but I'll kind of speak to guns, sales, and things like that with gun stores. Guns are, no different than what I think someone brought up about clothing, whether they sell a new gun. People are gonna sell their guns to a gun store, and they're gonna sell used guns, but if, like what the mayor was saying, if you're selling a gun for someone else so the gun store can make a profit off of that, and it's not allowed, that's another thing. That would also fall under the LDC guidelines, not the police departments. The other thing is, in most gun stores like that, which, you know, I'm a firearms instructor and also an armor in about 4 or 5 different guns, types of guns. These places have those people who are experts in working on your firearms. This is a case of someone who walked in or was attempting to walk in who don't have those skills, who, you know, it happened, and it's something that I wish didn't happen, but it did happen. And so it may have been handled in a different manner if there was some injury or something, because, you know, you have involuntary manslaughter and other things like that that take place. But, you know, fortunately, this time it didn't happen. There
And I'm
wasn't
not
any injuries.
disagreeing, it happened. Shooters Express, but in all these different places. The nice thing about them is they're a little bit more isolated. This is right off of a main avenue, right next to where children are. Like I said, I'm all for it. I've got guns, I go shoot them, right? But it's just this particular situation here is a little bit more sensitive, I would say.
And just to, as, you know, to complete the background, obviously, this
Yeah.
was administratively approved because it was considered retail, which was allowable in that district, and so it was subject to administrative approval by the planning department. It was not something that
came to
would
council.
come before council, such as the conditional zoning earlier tonight, so.
And to further that, there's nothing we can do about it even for future stuff because of downzoning at this point. So,
But it's just something that, you know, thank goodness nothing happened, and I get, you know, all right, it's an accident, whatever, but, you know, should somebody get injured or worse, I don't think they're going to be particularly satisfied after oh, well, you know, it's a new, you know, it just strikes me as the kind of thing that, I don't know, considering all of the other uses that are in proximity to it.
yeah.
I can tell you that we did our due diligence on investigating them, because there's people in the room who have children who go to some of the places who are nearby as well. So we looked into it in all aspects, and it's just one of those things. Unfortunately, it happened.
Yeah, and I'm not saying y'all
No.
didn't.
Did the owner of the store call y'all?
No.
Was the owner of the store there?
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and put this on nuisance and base,
Well,
I
we
can
need
I
to-
can reach out to the district attorney to see what he thinks about the situation.
video I saw was the store owner cleaning it up, and then it sounds like he never called you guys, which alarms me.
So can we know who called? Was it just like somebody on the sidewalk that heard it go off, or?
I think it was a mother who had her
Oh, at the dance
child at the
studio.
dance studio.
Well, I think let's try and, at the same time, let's remain level-headed so that if any action is necessary, it has the most chance of being, succeeding in its objectives. But, you know, I would agree with my colleagues that, you know, this is something to be concerned about. But let's, you know, not get carried away.
Absolutely, and we definitely, like you're saying, we should follow the process.
Mhm.
And I'll reach out to the district attorney to see what he has to say about it as far as the nuisance abatement stuff, and I can get a update to Miles.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else,
I don't
Jim?
have anything
All
else.
right.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep. On my part, let's see, Mark and I will be going to City Vision, heading up to Raleigh for the next couple days to meet with some of our colleagues in other municipalities to learn what's going on, what they're doing, and bring some new things back with us as we come back. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, just remember to put it on your calendar, because we'd love to see a big turnout, May 30th, the Belmont Takeover at Knight Stadium. I think it's going to be a good time. Hopefully weather holds out and we can all go out and enjoy being a community together and watching some baseball.
Is it truly Belmont Takeover? Is that what it is?
That's what they're calling it,
Yep.
Belmont Town Takeover.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
That's the
so
one
put
day
it on your
rain, I
calendar,
swear.
Alex.
It's on the
All
calendar.
right,
but
all right.
like,
Well, if you're not there, no, I am looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good time. All right, so that will take
find a
us.
babysitter.
That'll take us to agenda item E, closed session. So hold on one second. Let me get that in front of me. All right, so I will entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina Gen Stat 143-318.11 A, subsection 3, to consult with the city attorney employed or retained by a public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
So moved.
I think we have to mention the case if we're discussing a case. So it would be
Okay.
to discuss the case of Hinckley versus City of Belmont.
Thank you, Jim. Alex, did you make
And I'll
make that?
second Alex's motion.
Perfect. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're in closed session. We'll take a short recess.